So what is narcissism? It's a very commonly used word these days, a bit of a buzzword. It's probably overused. And yeah, I'm wanting to unpack this and explore this from different perspectives, psychological and spiritual perspectives today with you. So narcissism, in a psychological sense, speaks to someone who's completely self-absorbed. It's all about them. They've got no empathy or regard for other people. They'll just bully and manipulate anyone around them to get what they want, to get their way. I tend to use words like weak and immature when I'm working with someone who might be the child of someone like that or partner to someone like that, as a gentler way of describing this person who can be so impossible. So in the follow-up video, the next one, we'll talk about how to manage someone like that, how to deal with the narcissist in your life. But today I really just want to unpack the broader brushstrokes of it. What's it mean? How do we recognise those aspects, those traits in ourselves? And so if we go to the big picture, where do we start? Yeah, let's start with the spiritual perspective. Let's go to the broad design of all this. And so essentially what the mystics and great teachers have worked out over the ages is that we are either moving towards our truth, towards remembering who we are, coming home to the deeper reality of our essence, if you like, which turns out to be an aspect of love. It's like a facet of love. It's like the reality is we're a child of a divine creator. We're the child of a loving universe. And on the deepest levels of our knowing and our being, we find that, we are this beloved child of the divine. We are this eternal spark of light, of love. And so we're either moving towards that or away from it. We're either remembering who we are or forgetting who we are. We're either coming into unity and connection and integrity, or we're moving out into separation and being apart, being alone. We're either love-based or fear-based. We're either moving into an openness and a freedom, or we're moving into contraction and control. And so if you think of it in that sense, it's quite binary, isn't it? This system, we're either moving towards love or away from it. If you go to spiritual classics like Course in Miracles, it unpacks this at great length. Other teachers have spoken about this in different ways. An old way they spoke about in terms of the fall, leaving the Garden of Eden or being kicked out of paradise. And all these different sources, more modern ones, would speak of it in terms of separating out from who we are and finding ourselves in what we'd call our split mind. Course in Miracles says that this is really just a tiny, scared little thought of being separate. But that tiny little thought has kind of become what he calls the ego. And the ego, being fear-based, is really what causes all our problems. Our problem is having this split mind. So what we find is in our journey of healing and remembering who we are, the first thing that happens is we have to wake up out of that stuck little shell of ego, that identity of being completely separate, alone, and in fear. And so narcissism, really the momentum of narcissism, is where we are coming from. It comes from this place of being in fear, alone, isolated, forgetting who we really are, disconnected from the source of reality. It's a tiny mad idea, says Course in Miracles. It's a very frightened little place to be, but we all know what it's like to be in that part of our mind, and we all know people who are, or have met people who are really dominated by that, tiny part of the mind that we'd call the split mind. So if we haven't remembered who we are, if we haven't even started that journey of awakening or or, gradual enlightenment, becoming more and more who we really are, we'll really be stuck in fear. In fact, there's people who are actively separating. They're actively working in that direction to be even more contracted, even more fear-based. And so the extremes of narcissism we'd see in things like Satanism, and they're kind of actively, trying to make things darker, which is where very horrible things come from. But we dial that back a bit, and we're looking at that part of us that's stuck in fear. And of course, if we're in fear, well, it's all about survival, and it's all about whatever we need to do to kind of protect this very weak, threatened, vulnerable sense of self. It's like an identity, if you like. And of course, it's very threatened because it has no reality. It's not plugged into the greater reality of love and power and freedom. So it is very threatened and weak. And so when someone hasn't started to wake up, they will be running purely from fear, purely from separated mind. And this is where the intense control comes from, the intense manipulation, the intense bullying, and, whatever. It's like there's no regard. There's not even an awareness of other people. They're so in that separated mind. It's a horrible, horrible, fear-based, low-frequency place to live from. I always get a bit of a shock when I go to it in my process, and I get to a part that might be stuck in that, and it's like, wow, God, it's such a heavy, difficult energy to live from. So it's, not a nice place to be stuck in. But this is where the narcissism comes from. This is where people can be so sociopathically lacking in any care, empathy, regard for anyone else, will just walk over heads to get what they want. And if you're not giving them what they want, or making them look good, or making them feel good, they'll punish you. And we'll go into that more in the next video. But that's the extreme. It's easier to see things in the extreme. The other extreme of that would be someone who's finished that journey of remembering who they are and relinquishing the ego, healing it out, dissolving it, if you like, correcting the fears. It's the gradual transmutation of those fears that allows us to live more and more from our authentic self, our real self, that spacious, more peaceful, calmer, joyful place of who we really are, the soul, if you like. And there are some people, of course, over history who've fully attained that state of being free. They've healed out the ego completely, and so they're completely in their light. They've finished, if you like, their human journey of remembering who they are. And from there, on a soul level, I think that journey continues. But most of us in the middle, I think you can map this on a bell curve. Imagine a huge bell curve, and every person on the planet is somewhere on that bell curve. Yep, you get the extremes. Most people are right in the middle, where we've got this kind of mix, if you like, of fear and love, of dark and light. We're a work in progress. I'm a work in progress. I'm still working on deep layers of shadow material and trying to heal out deeper layers of fear, but I've been on the journey for a long time, and it's definitely got better every step of the way. So understanding it, these broad momentums, we can understand narcissism as really just a sad forgetting of self, an identity of fear-based self, and the lostness of separation of that state. But I think if you're watching this video, you're someone who's already woken up to some degree. You've already started asking questions. You've already started responding to the still small voice of your soul, the gentle nudging of spirit, inviting us to wake up. Wake up, wake up. You wake up out of that deep, dark sleep. Remember who you are. And so wherever you are on that journey, let's do a bit of process now, just to explore this a bit. It's really about a gradual tipping of the scales, isn't it? So there's less and less fear, and there's more and more love. And eventually we heal out the fear completely, so we can be completely established in love. This is where we're headed. This is the new earth, if you like. And more people are coming in, well established in this. It creates a very different world, of course. Can I invite you just into a little process, maybe eyes closed if you wish. Just drop in and take a few nice, long, deep breaths. And just allowing everything we've been talking about to percolate through your awareness. And I want you to imagine you can see your own internal set of scales. You can see, firstly, on the love side. See where you've remembered who you are. See where you've reconnected, if you like, to the cosmic origins of your greater self, the love-based reality of who and what you are. And maybe this is something that started many lifetimes ago. But just notice on that side of the scales how much you live in love, how much you express from love, how much you operate in your life in that love-based reality, aligned with the greater truth of who and what you are, thinking, feeling, expressing from that place, even feeling the ease of that, sensing that in the body, the health, the ease of that. And just notice the signs of that remembering of self. Things like a gentle joy, a peaceful calm, an open freedom, expansiveness somehow in the mind, in the heart, in the life. And just acknowledge for yourself how far you've come, how far you've grown in recognizing, remembering who you are, choosing that actively, aligning with that. Just acknowledge how far you've come. And if you could put a number on it, even what percentage overall you're established in the reality of your greater self. Is it past the tipping point of 50%? When we get to 51%, we're more in love than we are in fear. Have you reached that tipping point? Are you close to it, or maybe you're far beyond that? Maybe you're dealing now just with residual layers, the last 20%. So just feeling that, acknowledging that, noticing that. Breathe that in and take a note. Let the cells of your body take note of what it feels like when you're on purpose, when you're in alignment. And now notice the other side of the scales. Notice the parts of yourself that are still stuck in fear somehow, still stuck in separation, isolation. Those parts will show in pain of some sort, in difficult, heavy emotion, fear, guilt, rage, grief. It'll show in fear-based thinking, criticism of self or others, negativity, nihilism, that negative way of perceiving the world, perceiving others, full of judgment and attack. Notice even how that aspect, shadow aspect you might call it, shows up in the body. The more fear we carry, the more interference there is in the body's functioning. The more blocked emotion there is, the harder it is for the body to work in a healthy way. So it can manifest in physical issues. So noticing this, feeling this, and get a sense of where that percentage is, that proportion. You might notice, if you're like me, you might notice parts that are still actively choosing that, identified with it, engaged in it, even thinking that there's something good that's going to come out of those egoic desires, those egoic fear-based beliefs or intentions. So no judgment here, we're all works in progress, but just noticing, acknowledging, being aware of that side of things. And so before you open your eyes, just maybe setting an intention to actively build the love muscle, to actively notice and love to death those parts still caught in fear and separation. Just setting that intention to further your journey away from that narcissistic service to self stream and fostering more the loving, open service to others stream that is taking us home. And when you're ready, bringing that intention with you, the feeling of that with you back into the space you're in, soft eyes opening when you're ready. So I hope you found that really helpful, really interesting. I've been so curious and fascinated by these things, just really desperate to understand how this all works psychologically, and I've found that it's the deep spiritual understandings or ways of seeing it that have made the deepest sense of it, things that psychology alone won't explain adequately. So yeah, like all of us, I'm still learning and gaining more knowledge and wisdom around this sort of thing, but I find that's a very helpful template to map the whole narcissism thing onto, and we'll follow this up in the next video. Please share, like, comment, subscribe. That all helps me in knowing that this service I'm offering is of use, of benefit, encourages me to keep going. And yeah, have a look at my website. There's other offerings there that might be of interest. And please feel free to reach out in any way at any time, email, comment, get in touch. My joy to be of service to you. So lots of love. Bye.